Let me ask you something. What would it take for you to walk away from everything? Your home, your career, your entire community? Well, for Syed Muhammad Shah, a highly respected religious scholar, it all started with just 2 words he read in the Quran. And those 2 words sparked a crisis that would change his life forever.
And these are the 2 words right here, Imam Mubin. In Arabic, this means the clear or manifest Imam. Now, for a man of deep learning and even deeper faith, this phrase wasn't just text on a page. It became the starting point for a spiritual journey that would take over a decade of his life.
And this is the paradox that completely consumed him. You see, in his tradition, the 12 or Shia tradition, the 12th Imam is believed to be in occultation, basically hidden from the world until the end of times. So how could that be? How could the Imam be hidden away, yet the Quran itself calls him manifest and clear? This question just wouldn't let him go. It became an obsession.
So to really feel the weight of this question, you first have to understand the man himself. You have to understand the incredible life he was about to put on the line, all for a single answer.
I mean, get this. Sayyid Muhammad Shah wasn't just some local teacher. We're talking about a master of his craft, an expert in Islamic law, the Quran, the Arabic language, with over 6,000 students who looked up to him. He had it all: respect, prestige, and a massive following.
But that one question, that paradox of the manifest Imam, it was like a fire in his mind that he just couldn't put out. So one night, he made an unbelievable decision. He just walked away. From his home, his property, his thousands of students. He left it all behind to go find an answer.
And with that, he began this long, difficult quest, a 12-year search that would take him all across the Islamic world, looking for the Imam of his time.
And this timeline really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? 12 long years. For more than a decade, he traveled, he asked questions, he searched, and he came up with absolutely nothing. His journey, which started with so much conviction, ended right back where he began, in the city of Najaf, with nothing to show for it.
Can you just picture that scene? After 12 years of dead ends, he makes his way to the tomb of Hazrat Ali, one of the most sacred figures in his faith, and he's just broken, totally exhausted, completely defeated, and he just collapses in despair. This was his rock bottom.
And in that moment, he prayed this desperate prayer. He was terrified of dying in a state of ignorance because he had failed to find his Imam, a fate the Prophet Muhammad had warned about. You can just feel the anguish in those words. But you know, it's often when we hit our lowest point that something changes. For him, that desperation cracked something open, and a dream he had that night would point him in a totally new, completely unexpected direction. So after that prayer, he falls asleep. And in a dream, he gets this simple, clear message: go to Karachi. That's it. No explanation, no details, just a destination. For a man with nothing left to lose, this one little sliver of hope was everything. He set off right away.
So he arrives in Karachi, checks into a hotel, and looks at his window, and what he sees is this incredible contrast. There he is, a lone traveler, full of anxiety and uncertainty, but out on the street, he sees this whole community of people, dressed in their best clothes, just filled with this palpable joy, all heading into a building.
He had to know what was going on, so he asked someone, and they tell him, these are the Ismaili Khojas, a community of Shia Muslims. Today, their Imam is arriving. Imagine hearing that word Imam after 12 years of fruitless searching. His heart must have started pounding out of his chest.
So this is it. After 12 years, a mysterious dream, a journey across continents, it all comes down to this single moment. Sayyid Muhammad Shah was about to come face to face with his destiny.
He rushed over to their place of worship, the Jamaat Khana, and he waited. Before long, a carriage pulled up, and seated inside was Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, the 48th Imam of the Shia Ismaili Muslims. This was the moment of truth.
So he's standing there, across the street, just watching, and in his heart, he lays down this silent, internal challenge, a test for the man in the carriage, the culmination of his entire life's quest. He thinks to himself, if you are the true, manifest Imam, then prove it. Look into my eyes.
And then it happened. In this big crowd of people, the Imam suddenly turns his head,
and looks directly towards this one lone scholar standing across the street.
Time must have just stood still. The imam then, very deliberately, very slowly, removes his glasses, and he looked straight into his eyes. In that single, profound gaze, 12 years of desperate searching, of doubt, of agony, it all just vanished. He knew. The question that had driven him across the world was finally answered. But that moment of recognition, well, that was just the beginning. Let's look at what happened next, because the conversation that followed turned this great scholar into a brand new follower.
So shortly after, he was actually summoned to meet the imam. The very first thing he does is perform the bay'ah, which is the sacred oath of allegiance. But his thoughts immediately turn to the people he left behind. He asks for his family to be accepted, and then he makes one more huge request, for his 6,000 students to be accepted as well.
And the imam's response here is just fascinating. He doesn't just accept him as a student. He completely redefines their whole relationship with this one sentence. For a man who had been a teacher his entire life, this was a profound shift in his very identity. And that brings us to the final, powerful instruction. The imam tells him to abandon his old life of gathering students and taking offerings, and instead to understand this deeper truth, a quote right from the Quran: God guides whom he wills with his light. In other words, the search was never truly his to control in the first place. And so his incredible story leaves us with this really profound question. Is guidance something we find through our own desperate, relentless searching? Or is it something that finds us, part of a divine choice that was never really ours to make?